Hello, this is Jen Mitchell Love from Solace Divorce Mediation. This video is focused on children and talking to our kids about divorce. Children are the heart of the Solace divorce journey. My three children, I had three kids in 39 months, and they totally changed the course of my career. And as parents, I think we all recognize how powerful our children are in being teachers to us in our lifetime. And of course, we are teachers to them as their parents, and we are guides to them. And I know from being a family law attorney for almost 20 years now, I know that going through a divorce with children is one of the scariest spaces for people to navigate. And I do believe that the reason that it is so scary for parents to navigate this space is because of the programs, the programming when it comes to divorce. And when I'm talking about programming, what I'm talking about is kind of the way the human consciousness, the social consciousness, how we were raised, what our beliefs are about divorce, and of course, throughout the course of time. And I do believe this is because for generations of time, people have chosen to use the family law court system to get a divorce, which completely removes your power to speak your truth because your attorneys are talking for you. It also completely removes your ability and power to make decisions because a judge is doing all that for you. So it is a very disempowering system, and children in that system, they are harmed because their parents are getting further and further apart with communication, and there's so much stress in that space, and there's so much fear and uncertainty, and again, disempowerment. They're basically being told what they need to do. And so that's kind of an explanation of why the programs are the way that they are. I do understand them. I understand why. I was a litigation attorney for the first 9 years of my career, and I saw how children were destroyed in that space. And that's why when my children came into my life, they were my teachers and showing me that being a litigation attorney in the family law court was destroying other people's children and people and families. And the ripple effect was totally gross. And I didn't want to do that anymore. So all of that as a background is to share with you, children are the heart of Solace. They are the reason that I do the work that I do. I do not want one additional child anywhere to be negatively impacted by divorce, and they don't need to be. So that's what I want to share with you. Your children do not need to be negatively impacted by your divorce. They can be very empowered by your divorce if it is done mindfully and with intention and with love. They can actually be empowered through this experience. And so this video is focused specifically on talking with your children about divorce. And at Solace, I help coach my clients through this space. And I want to share with you, the first conversation that you have with your children about the divorce. The goal of that conversation is for your kids to feel safe and loved and really open, that they can be open to share how they are feeling about everything. That is the goal of that conversation. And it is one of many conversations that you will be having, because your kids are part of this journey too. Of course, the two parents, you and your spouse are driving it, and hopefully you are choosing to mediate where you are being guided by a mediator, and the two of you are having your conversation, sharing your authentic truths, and reaching a space that feels good for both of you. And instead of fighting it out in the courtroom, which is unnecessary, other than maybe 5% of cases which involve abuse, if you are in a relationship with any type of physical concerns for yourself or for your children, the courtroom is a really great space for you. Um, But for everybody else, 95% of cases, hopefully you're using the mediation process. And in that space, you don't have all the stresses that you have in the courtroom. And you can be very open with your children because you don't have fear of what a judge is going to order you to do. Are in this space of saying, I am the authority, my co-parent, we are the authorities on our children and on co-parenting, and we're going to decide this together. And the conversation about divorce with your children, depending upon their ages, of course, I find for younger kids it can be really helpful to share, like, okay, there's some things that are staying the same and some things that are going to be different, and what's staying the same. We, as your parents, we love you more than anything. We love you, love you, love you. We want you to be happy. We want all of your dreams to come true. We love you so much. What is also staying the same? We're always going to be a family. We're always going to be a family. What is going to be different? And that's when, if you're going to be living in two different homes, now your parents are going to live in two different homes, but that's okay, and focus on the fun stuff. You have two groups of neighborhood friends, two kind of routes you can go for Halloween and get extra candy, like whatever you can think about for your kids to get them excited about this, but also to continually reinforce, how much you love them and how they are the focus for you, and you're always going to be a family. And I think, having that first conversation, opening the space, and being very mindful of the energy that you're going to bring into that conversation. So I always coach my clients and encourage them, before you talk with your kids, really sit with yourself. And always nature is my go-to when I'm sitting with myself and doing any type of soul searching work. Um, really sit with yourself and really connect and ask yourself what is important for you in this conversation with your kids, and what type of energy do you want to be sharing with them throughout the conversation. And then when you have that set, then you can connect with your co-parent and have a conversation of what both of your intention is for this conversation with your kids. And then you can create a shared intention going into the conversation. And I do find, when we are living from a space of mindfulness and intentionality, there is power in sharing what the intention is, that there is power, and you can share that with your kids, and I think the more we talk about divorce with our children, the more we, make it known that this is what's happening. And it doesn't need to be like a sensitive topic. It doesn't need to be like a stigmatized topic. It is what it is. And that you're going through this as a family, and that you're going to continually be checking in with them, continually, making sure that they're good. I think also, in these conversations with your kids, being very open and vulnerable in sharing. We're doing our very best in doing this, and we are not experts in this. We want your input, and we're going to go through this as a family, and we want to make sure that you feel comfortable and safe and loved. And so we're going to do different things, and then we're going to check in and make sure that it feels good for you. And I think as we're doing this with our children, we're creating this really safe, flowy space of relationship, where we do recognize, okay, we are all traveling this life journey together, and we are a family, and being a family is so special and so important and sacred in that, with your family members, if you so desire and choose, you can have very open conversations of how amazing it is that you all chose to travel this life together in this family unit. And, those are your people. Of course, throughout life, you're going to have different friends, different people coming into your life, but your family, those are your people, and those are the people you can be your authentic self with, and be very open with, and share your dreams with, and share about the journey of achieving those dreams. And it can be a very sacred and special and beautiful place. And so I encourage you to open that space in your heart for you to have these conversations with your children, and be very mindful and intentional with the energies that you wish to share with them. Sending you much love. You're going to do amazing. The first conversation is one of many. It's a continual conversation, and it feels good to share in that way, and to be open in that way, and to be vulnerable in that way, with your children and with your family, because those are the ones that we can be that way with the most. And yeah, there's so much love in that container. So I'm sending you much love as you navigate this space.